When you're playing against a good football team in the NFL, you've got to take your opportunities when they arise in a football game and strike. And you've got to limit the self-inflicted wounds that you may cause unto yourself. Unfortunately, on both of those two accounts today for your Seattle Seahawks, they failed to bring that horse home. They fall to the Los Angeles Rams 26-20 in a very entertaining, tumultuous, emotional game that had many different swings with it, and where you felt as a Hawk fan going from a place of feeling like confidently at halftime, we might just have this thing wrapped up on the bag like the Falcon game, to completely feeling like it was out of your grip, to actually getting it back kind of into your hands near the end there and feeling like you were actually going to steal it away. But you weren't able to steal it away. And again, for the bit of those aforementioned reasons. And we're going to be a lot of blame that's going to be tossed around coming out the end of this game. People are going to get stuck on their given spots that they want to kind of glom onto that are the reason this team loses versus the other. I think the one commonality spot that you'll find coming out of this game as far as a place of blame, though, will be back on that offensive line. I have talked about it very much too often over the past couple of years here on this channel. It's getting nauseating. In this game, you have Geno Smith dropping back 34 times. He is sacked 7 times in this game. That's not hurries. That's not quarterback hits. That's sacks. Meaning just about once every 4 passing attempts, Geno Smith is getting sacked. And much of that pressure is almost instantaneous at times. Now, the Rams run some very creative fronts with those stunts that they run in this game, and the Hawks had a ton of problems with it. But it makes playing the quarterback position almost impossible when you're asking for the quarterback to hold up under that amount of pressure. And in addition to that, an offensive line that then can't run block particularly well, which once again showed itself today. Kenneth Walker, whatever yards he got, were hard-fought yards, were hard-earned yards, weren't big, wide, gaping holes opened up for him to go get those yards. And this is against a Rams team that's kind of weak in stopping the run. Now, it was a game that started out offensively where you thought, hey, we're going to be locked into running the ball hard, and Grubb is really going to stay committed to this, because you wanted to, coming into this game, stay out of the passing attack as much as possible because of the way the Rams do rush the passer. And you started out with 6 straight touches there to Kenneth Walker. He walks off the field, gets a blow. You've moved down the field on the drive, gotten yourself onto the Rams side of the football field. And then suddenly, as we've seen with coach offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb this year, they'll inexplicably leave the running game and just start getting pass happy, which they did there, eventually taking themselves at that point out of field goal range and stopping what was a very productive drive. Once again, from your offensive coordinator and Grubb, you got that up and down play calling that's going in conjunction with really poor offensive line play, in my opinion, across the board. There's maybe been some other games where the line's been maybe a little bit worse, but it was pretty much as close to about as bad as it's been overall. And it probably does also make it harder than on your offensive coordinator to call the entirety of the game that he wants to call and utilize everything when he's got to be sometimes so protective over both his quarterback and how his offense functions, because he just can't rely on things to hold up front. It's a tough thing to watch on a weekly basis. It's tough to watch this for years undertake. And I think the fans, almost in uniformity coming out of this game, where there will be other disagreements, will be screaming to John Schneider, absolutely screaming to please finally address this. Please stop your ways in this manner. Please learn your lessons. Everyone's going to get things wrong in the NFL from a front office perspective. People are going to make mistakes, but can you learn from your mistakes? Well, we've been sitting on this problem for almost 10 years. Kind of starts to feel like maybe this organization is just not going to learn from their mistake on this. But that's neither here nor there. It's got to get fixed into this offseason. It is deep sixing almost everything else on this team across the board. This will be a game that people are going to come out with Geno Smith and say, see, this is why Geno's not the guy. Man throws for 363 yards, averages 10 yards an attempt, throws 3 touchdown passes, but they will say with just absolute confidence, but see, that was a trash performance there. That's why you can't have him as the guy. Look, Geno did not play the greatest of games necessarily, and those interceptions in this game, he threw 2 in the red zone, are inexcusable. You tell quarterbacks, protect the ball. Be aware of what's going on in the game. And at the point in time in the game when he threw both of those 2 picks, you're in a tight game. Your defense is playing better than they played recently here in these prior weeks. You don't need to score every single time. And he pressed a little bit too much. He tried a little bit too hard. There's one interception where he's holding the ball a little late, tries to move to his left a little bit late, throw a back across his body to the middle of the field. That's a big no-no for quarterbacks. Gets it intercepted, as will at times happen on those kind of throws. That guy then runs it back for a pick six in addition to that. That's backbreaking. And Geno had so many really fantastic throws in this game in addition to it, and really great decision-making in this game in addition to that. But those are the throws that people are going to get stuck on and say, see those two things? That's who he really is. I do still maintain that in this grand debate that's undertaken here in the Seahawks fandom, that you put any quarterback behind these kind of conditions, they will fail. And that it's, yes, the offensive line, it's also the play calling, it's not working together. Any quarterback you put behind this line would fail, and fail much worse. If you're going to call Geno failing here, which I don't think I can call it that, it would be in much worse shape by pretty much almost any quarterback in this sport, even guys that you might be considered quote unquote stars. They have put the situation together at that bad of a place as far as the offensive line goes. But Geno's going to catch his share of shade in this game because of those two red zone picks. The other interception early in this game was on Jackson Smith and Jigba. It's a third down. Geno stepping up in the pocket. He throws it in with some mustard there into Jackson. He's got to catch a ball that's got some heat coming off of it. But Jackson gets both of his hands in it. He kind of cradles the ball a little bit. Has a lot of us that have been a little bit frustrated with Jackson Smith going, come on, man, because it bounces off his hands and then it's picked off. And that's that self-inflicted wound stuff where it's these errors that are almost unforced. He's not being hit. There's not a guy banging onto him there. He's got two hands on the ball. I was always taught if you're a receiver and it hits you with two hands, you better catch the damn ball. Instead, it bounces off his hands. I'm sitting there just come on, JSN, just getting pissed at him. And then
you go and do something like this and totally redeem yourself.
Because Jackson Smith came back in this game with 7 catches for 180 yards, by far his best performance as a pro, and a performance that does show you that thing that I was questioning a little bit last week of when are we going to see a little bit more of why this guy was that first round guy. He's getting his opportunity here with DK. He was very quiet last week against Buffalo, but here today you saw what he could bring to the table, and really even at 180 yards, it could be like 275 yards. He had a couple of big catches down the football field, washed off the books, because as bad as our offensive line is at pass protecting, and as bad as they may be at run blocking, they're also very bad at drawing a high amount of penalties. And you had plays that were nullified and wiped off the book in this game because of that offensive line, including Jackson at the center of that. Brutal moments to lose those plays. But he was fantastic coming on the heels of that interception, and absolutely did redeem himself and give us a little bit more hope now as we go forward here, especially when we start to try to look to find that right balance between DK and Jackson, where it's not all about trying to force feed DK, but finding that proper flow state between DK and Jackson and being able to keep defenses honest. But a sensational performance by JSN. He made some really good catches down the line, showed off a little bit of the yak that we haven't seen as much from him at times, and he had an absolute fantastic game. The running back position-wise, Walker, 25 carries, 83 yards. There was nothing he was really able to do in this game because there was not really much space to be had. Seattle is still running a lot of their plays up the middle. There's not much they can do to the edges to get anything done there. You're still seeing a lot of very early penetration at times on plays in the defense on running plays. They're seeing where the ball is going. Just very hard to get much done there. Whatever yards Kenneth got, he at times almost got just by sheer force of will. Tyler Lockett, a couple of catches in this game. He was solid on his side of it. But offensively speaking, it was pretty much kind of a tough sledding of a day overall. You really kind of just turned the lights on at the end of the half and one half. Found a little bit of footing there at the end of the game to a degree when you needed it, but it was rough. And Geno also did show you on the other side of it too, the good things of what he can bring, because that final drive there where you've got to get up the field and score a touchdown to tie the game. You've got 2 minutes remaining left in the game. I think you've got a couple timeouts from Seahawks perspective on that one at that point. Geno goes down. He's got like a second and 24, throws a 30-yard piss missile down there to White, the kid that you activated off the practice squad. White makes a sensational catch on the play to keep his feet in bounce. Then he comes back on a 4th and 5. 4th and 5, you're thinking the quarterback's going to throw the sticks. He's just going to try to keep the chains moving. Instead, he attacks with JSN over the top. He gets one-on-one with JSN. JSN beats his man. He drops a pillowy, soft 9-route throw right in over the top to JSN, and then comes back a few moments later on first down and from the 14, and instead of just sort of trying to ease his way up the field there, throws just an absolute seed seed to Jackson Smith and Jigba on a corner route out of the slot. And it's a really amazing throw because you have the outside corner there from a leverage standpoint, and Geno's got to read that corner up tight to then go to Jackson Smith on the corner route in the back of the end zone, knowing that that outside corner is not going to drop with depth to Jackson Smith on that corner route. So then you get those three throws that then also show you what he does on the other side of it. You got the 363 yards on the other side of it. You got the three touchdown passes on the other side of it without a running game, with poor pass protection, getting sacked once every 4 attempts. But at the end of the day, where it'll land, I think, with Geno, because of this offensive line issue, is that we just won't really know is the real answer here. We won't really have the understanding of where he's standing as a quarterback because the picture is so dirtied up by what's going on with this offensive line. Another plus part of Geno's game that you got to see in this game, on top of dealing with the pressure, and despite those bad moments that I do not want to cover up and act like they didn't exist, but a place that he did show you some of the benefit of what you get in a quarterback who's been in the league as so many years as such as him, is some of the hard counts that he brought today. And I think a credit's got to go to Geno for picking some of this up on the film study because he's not used that as much. I counted to my eyes 5 hard count false starts that he got from the Rams. And early on, the officials called the play dead. It seemed like the Hawks were able to finally talk them into here. Hey, we get a free play on that one. And props has got to go to Geno because when he got those free plays, he was taking shots down the football field. He was going to press the action. And you got a touchdown to Tyler Lockett on just that kind of route run where he got him to jump off sides. I hope Geno can carry that forward because I think sometimes defenses do get a little bit keyed in on his cadence. But when he used it today, he was able to use it to maximum effect, almost Aaron Rodgers-like. And the way he was getting him to jump off sides and be able to then tack it down the field. When it comes to the defense, that is the part that was really good today. We've been looking for a little more of the intensity, a little bit more of a feeling of buying in, a little bit more of a ferocity of spirit, if you were. I think you got that today. You have to earn the right to rush the passer is what they have told us. That's what you were able to do against Kyren Williams today. 22 carries, 69 yards. The Rams started out early, really trying to hammer the run game up the middle. You were stopping all of that out. They were able to get nothing going there. The Rams made a little bit of an adjustment later on, attacking a little bit more to the edges on pitch plays. And they were able to find a little bit of footing with that. But even that, you didn't allow that to then crush down upon you. You found an answer for that as well. And you never allowed their ground game to get going. You were going to put a little bit more on Stafford at that point, get them then into third and longs instead of those 3rd and 3s that we were running into at times when we were getting teams in third downs, which was kind of infrequently in recent weeks. So the defense did a really good job of first earning that right to pass by being so much more improved at stopping the run. It has been really bad. You came into this game with only two other teams giving up more yards on the ground than you. Much more improved today and across the board. The discipline was better. The tackling was on point. Ernest Jones, since that trade, has made a big improvement for you at that middle linebacker position. His tackling really showed up today where he had these one-on-one opportunities in the hole or just a couple yards past the line of scrimmage, and he brought that guy to the ground. Early on the year, we were seeing times where that guy would slip out of the grip of our inside linebackers. So Ernest has definitely been a plus since you brought him here to the team. Tariq Woolen, a little bit of an up and down day here from Tariq Woolen. He's got a 9-route throw at half where the throw goes down the sidelines. He shows you that he can eat those kind of routes up, especially a guy against Puka who doesn't have quite the speed to really challenge him. Goes up and high points the ball, makes the interception there. It's also kind of a double dip moment because Puka Nacua has Dotson come up and block him. Dotson blocks him a little hard for Puka's taste, and so Puka kind of throws a punch. I think Puka was just trying to retaliate and give him a shove back, but instead it comes off as a punch. He gets ejected at the same play, which gets you 15 yards up the field, putting you in scoring position at that point. But Woolen goes and gets the pick there early on, showing some of those ball skills he can bring into play. But you have later on in the game, another red zone, they're at the 5-yard line. He gives up another touchdown there at the goal line. And then to finish off the game, you're trying to kind of have everybody sell out for the run there. You're trying to keep him out of field goal range. He's matched up one-on-one. He gets burnt over the top for a touchdown, game, set, match. So a bit of an up and down day from Tariq Woolen a little bit when he brought on the outside out there. But again, the defense overall was just wholly more improved from what we've seen. All across the board. Kobe Bryant continues to be very good moving into that safety position and taking over that starting role for Rashawn Jenkins, who's been put on the IR. I thought he looked better. Devin Witherspoon is a tackler today. I believe he forced a fumble. They were able to recover it because it seems like whenever we get a fumble, it's going right into the hands of the opposition. But nonetheless, I thought Witherspoon was improved in this game and from what he brought. Your defensive line, a little more active than it's been in recent weeks. Leonard Williams, both as a run stuffer and as creating pressure, you felt a little bit more of his presence kind of brought into play. Boye Mafe being used in that spinner role from the guard position. And then you also got a bit from McDonald, especially in the first half, of more of those simulated pressures and stacked boxes that we've been looking for from him. A little more blitzing from him, a little more willingness to get after Stafford in that way and not let him just sit in a comfortable pocket and assess things and slowly go through things, but get him uncomfortable, get him moving off of his spot. You did a good job of that today from McDonald's standpoint, I think, of unveiling a little bit more of what we'd seen from the Ravens defense in prior years on that angle of it. So the defense really came forward today. You made this more of a game because of that. You gave your offense the time to find their footing, which the defense hasn't been able to do a lot of that for the offense this year. It's been a lot more of hey guys, you're going to need to score like almost every possession at times this year from that defense. So a tip of the cap to them. Everyone played pretty good overall. Again, just felt like a little bit more of that intensity level came up. I questioned a bit of the effort last week, and I think rightfully so, when McDonald talked about how the practices hadn't been as good last week as they had been the week prior in the build-up for the Atlanta game. And I think you saw that on the field in last week's game against the Bills. This one, much more fiery, much more competitive there, especially from the defense, much better effort, and much more, again, fundamental, especially as they attack the run game. I don't know what in God's name is going on with the snapping issue, but it needs to get cleaned up in a hurry. And this is one of those things that's going to drive fans crazy, where there are already things going wrong with this team. There are already problems with this team in a variety of different areas. And now he can't even snap the effing ball. That's now a problem. That's now going to be an issue that we have to deal with on top of everything else. This has got to get fixed. And somebody raised in my chat that maybe some of it's that they're running so much of the get everything right prior to the snap to the line of scrimmage, have Geno up there orchestrating everything, and that sometimes that's leading the play clock maybe winding down and the snap to be rushed or the play to be rushed as the play clock is winding down. I don't know the reason here on this, but that stuff's got to get cleaned up in a hurry. That's one of those things that's the self-inflicted wounds that you can control. I'm not a guy to blame penalties. I'm not a guy to blame the refs. And I will say with certainty that this is a game that was not about the refs costing us this football game. We had plenty of opportunities to go get the win, self-inflicted wounds. You had your chances. You didn't get it done, bar none. With that said, Seattle Seahawks walked away out of this game with 12 penalties for almost 100 yards. And there are times when you're watching these games, not just this game, but many games this season with our Hawks, where those penalties just keep going clickety up and up and up and up. And I get that there's 8 penalties on the Rams in addition to this, but it's the timing of the penalties. It's the type of penalties that are being called, ticky-tack, right on the line. Or as it started out in this game, you have the moments in this game where it seems like they're letting the secondaries play, they're letting physicality go a little bit. Then they suddenly come back around and switch their ways into the second half, and now they're going to call it really tight out in the secondary. There was a whole drive by the Rams in this game that was completely aided and fueled by the officiating crew. They get into a third down, let's give them a call and get them an auto first down, happening multiple times over on that drive. It's not always about the total number of penalties called. It's also a lot of times about the timing of the penalties and when the officials are pulling out those flags. I got to say, it's getting really old watching this sport and never being able to really enjoy a play or celebrate a play or have to wait 5 minutes for every play because that little yellow flag button might come up on your screen. And yeah, it's this year we're getting penalized a lot this year, but let's also just remember something. Since 2010, the Seattle Seahawks have been the second highest penalized team in the entire National Football League coming into this season. Now it will look like once again this season, we're again going to be one of your top probably 4-3 highest penalized teams once again. Maybe we're just that bad. Maybe we just struggled that much sticking within the confines of the rule. But there is sometimes a nudging suspicion, scratching at the back of a Seahawks fandom's mind when it's to this degree, when it's to this extreme, where it just starts to feel like it's getting a little old and maybe there's something a little bit extra at play. Ain't saying anything's fixed, ain't saying anything's rigged, but it gets damn old, happening almost on a weekly basis. Special teams unit did a good job overall. Laviska Shenault with a 32-yard return on his one return as a kick returner. Myers hit 2 of 3 on the extra points. I think the one missed extra point was one where there was penetration on the play, and Myers, like a golf shot, was trying to kind of twist the ball around, sort of slice it around the defender that was right there in his face. If you go back and look at the replay, it kind of looks like that to me. A huge missed PAT at that point, of course, because you don't go into overtime if you have that made extra point. So once again, as we've seen throughout this year, self-inflicted wounds, it's a PAT, should be able to be a no-doubter maker there, shouldn't have that early penetration there, but we've seen almost on a weekly basis that the special teams unit comes in at some point or another, at one point or another, and ends up having a bad mistake, and a lot of times like that where it really does cost you. Now, they did make up for it on the other end of it from their side because White was able to go get a punt block later on in this game that was big in that moment. But it would be nice to see the special teams unit continue to at least play fully clean games throughout the whole game, rather than there always being that one moment. Last week, it was the fumble with D. Williams. There always is kind of something. The Giants game, you have to try to make that kick to get yourself in the end, and it gets blocked. It's always kind of something almost every week from this special teams unit as the bad for whatever good they bring. Now, the bright star as always is Michael Dixon. It's where he is the sun and all the rest of the parts orbit around him in special teams. 7 punts today, average 47 yards a kick, a couple of kicks inside the 20. You all know he's holding up his end of the bargain. It was a tough loss for your Seattle Seahawks today, not for the reasons that you have faced many oftentimes this year of getting flat out embarrassed. This was a competitive game. The spirit was much better. And this team is, as bad as they sometimes have looked, losers of 5 of the last 6 games. The team is still in this. This year is not over. And I know many Hawk fans after this game might be wanting to check out at that point. Maybe this has just gotten too painful for you, but this is a tight division. It's a down year for the NFC West. If you can get a home playoff win, anything is possible. And if you can build on that home playoff win, as we talk about building this to the future, that is only helpful for the team in the long term. So let's see how it goes. You come off the other end of this bye with both Abraham Lucas and DK Metcalf coming back. That's 2 potential impact players brought onto this offense. And if the defense can build on this type of performance, start to get more in alignment with McDonald's scheme, allow him to bring out some more of those wrinkles, then maybe there's a little bit more upside left in this football team this year. My name is Brandon Kane. This is the Hawks Nest. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. But beyond all that, don't you ever forget, go Hawks.